Sorry to cut the song off there, but I just gotta share the link to people, and probably gonna give the audience like a few minutes just to kind of get here. Oh, come on. Come on. Fucking hell. Of course the fucking thumbnail is the lion piece of chicken. Like, goddamn. Oh, shit. Didn't mean for that. Juden Tubin's thumbnail bug strikes me again. Okay. Don't mind the thumbnail. It's bugged again. Because on my end of things, I did change it to be Yuri Bezmenov on the thumbnail, but, let's see, just gotta add people on the server. A special episode of the ScurvyRum show is live. Don't mind the thumbnail. It's bugged. I mean, it is a cool looking chimera, so what can I say? If you don't understand the context of it, a lion piece of chicken. Okay, enough Love and Light TV jokes. Let's see, we have AC and For No Raisin in the chat. Here, let me see. Yeah, on my end. The thumbnail is Yuri Bezmenov. Uh-oh, did I fuck something up? Okay, never mind. Okay. All good. I just wanted to kind of tab out for a moment. There's no itinerary to go over. It's a special episode. So don't have to worry about things like that. How are you guys doing, though? If anybody's still in here, how y'all doing on a Monday night? I got nothing else to do, and I did plan on making this a special episode where we wrap up that interview. We're still like 27 minutes in. Well, technically 28, because, you know, in the video it's like on an intermission or break or whatnot, but we could disregard those. Let's see, did I send the stream to the pickle? Yeah, I did. I'll send it to Fourth Wall. Yeah, I know there's not really anybody streaming right now. I also know. Yeah, I'll check my subscriptions. Yeah, nobody's live right now. Saturn's not live. Chronic's gonna be offline for quite a bit. He's not gonna be streaming for a while. So it's mainly because his internet has just kind of been fucking him over. But who knows? It might give him some ideas for rejuvenation or whatnot. Because I feel like a lot of his streams have kind of been feeling samey. But that's a different rant for another time. I'm going to give probably like another... Sorry, I just have to play a little bit of noise. Just have to play a little bit of noise so my headphones don't turn off. Probably going to wait another like 5 minutes or something. Just want to see some names in this chat right here. Let's see. Okay. I am trying to think of something funny I could do while we wait. Here, let me check something before we get to the interview proper. I could find some funny. Sorry for the dead air, fellas. I'm just trying to find something funny for the meantime. Oh. I didn't find something funny, but I did see something cool. Never mind. He hasn't uploaded in a while. I thought the custom level scene in Mario Wonder would have improved, especially by now. The game's almost a year old. Well, there's always the single mom song. Oh, that'd get copyright struck. Okay.
About you, I mean, you have that regard.
I know this is not related to anything at all. We're just gonna wait like a few more minutes. No thanks. So this is a clip from when iShowSpeed was interviewing Dreamy Bull. I know it's not related to the topic, but like 3 more minutes and we'll start the show proper. But I want to show you guys this because I think it's funny.
Or to handle that business, but first thing to do, you have to accept that this. Yo!
Of course, Speed reacts the way he always does. Okay.
Oh, who did that, bro? Was that you? No, that wasn't me, my guy. Damn.
That wasn't me, my guy. Anyways, enough Dreamy Bull. Anyways. Hey, Sheffo, how you doing? Okay. Whoa. Oh, shit, I saw something funny. Okay. I'd say let's get this show on the road. I think viewership is probably going to increase over time. So, in case you don't know, I'm actually just going to put this, and then we'll get to the video, and then we'll get through the rest of Yuri Bezmenov's interview. So, last Saturday, we partially watched a pretty important interview that was done with a former KGB defector. He's no longer with us, of course, but he taught a lot of people about just exactly what kind of propaganda the Soviets were doing, and we watched a good 27 minutes of that, which probably took about an hour, I believe. And as much as I wanted to continue, I didn't have all the time in the world. So, with that being said, let's get back to the video, shall we? We left off at 27 minutes, 38 seconds. We're going to play it at normal speed. I don't really have a reason to rush through anything. Nothing's happening tonight, so I could take a lot of time to just talk about this.
All right. As every student in USSR, I went through very extensive physical and military training and civil defense training too. Unlike in United States, where civil defense is virtually non-existent, zero. In USSR, every student, whatever his major subject, has to go through very extensive 4-year military and civil defense training. You can see me here with a group of students during one of the war games near Moscow. The main idea, of course, is to prepare a huge reserve army of the USSR. Each student has to graduate as a junior lieutenant. In my case, it was administrative and military intelligence service. My first assignment was to India as a translator with the Soviet Economical Aid Group building refinery complexes in Bihar state and Gujarat state. At that time, I was still naively, idealistically believing that what I was doing contributes to the understanding and cooperation between the nations. It took me quite a number of years to realize that what we were bringing to India was a new type of colonialism, 1,000 times more oppressive and exploitative.
So, I certainly see this like a parallel between woke ideology being exported from here to other parts of the world where they're just not interested in it, they don't want to deal with it, but because the U.S. is still quite the economic powerhouse of the world. They can, we can get away with pushing woke shit upon countries who don't give a shit about it. I think I remember Think Before You Zink actually talk about like an ad made in India, funnily enough, that actually talks about just inherent biases or something stupid like that, and I could not help but see something similar, though I don't think it's going to be insanely tyrannical like the Soviet Union was, but what woke ideology does is that it makes people weak, and you could say that allows for tyranny to take place. God damn it, Pickle. Black boy don't breed no more.
Than any colonialism or imperialism in history of mankind. But at that time I was still hoping that, well, maybe it's not that bad, could be worse, and things may go for better. And I even tried to implement the beautiful Marxist motto, proletarians of all the countries unite. I tried to unite with a nice Indian girl, and I was fascinated by Indian culture, by the family life in this country. But obviously Communist Party had different plans for my genes, so I had to marry this beautiful Russian girl. In the span of my career, I married 3 times. Most of these marriages were marriages of convenience, on advice from the Department of Personnel. This is normal practice in USSR. When a Soviet citizen is assigned to a foreign job, he has to be married, either to keep family in USSR as hostages, or, if it's a convenience marriage like mine, so that the husband and wife are virtually informers on each other to prevent defection or contamination by decadent imperialist or capitalist ideas. In my
Well, I guess I mean, I might be really grasping at straws here, but it kind of reminds me of if you choose the wrong woman, it's like your life is gonna be over. So you kind of really have to vet for your partner, considering just on average that more women believe in this woke nonsense compared to most guys. yeah, you really have to be careful out there. Don't mess up, young guys.
Case,
Me.
I hated that girl so much that the moment I landed in Moscow, we were divorced, and I married later, second time. By the end of my first assignment in India, I was promoted to the position of public relation officer. You can see me here translating a speech by a Soviet boss.
And you're on the right.
I'm on the right here, yes. And it was, the occasion was commissioning of the refinery complex in Bihar, Barauni. Back in Moscow, I was immediately recruited by Novosti Press Agency, which is a propaganda and ideological subversion front for the KGB. 75% of the members of the Novosti are commissioned officers of the KGB. The other 25 are, like myself, co-opted agents who are assigned to specific operations. In this particular case, you can see me talking to students of Lumumba Friendship University in Moscow. This is a huge school under the direct control of the KGB and Central Committee, where future leaders of the so-called national liberation movements are being educated.
Interesting. That's a much more interesting parallel to, you know, modern day education, especially higher education, where it just feels like it's an indoctrination center. Like, even though you know, you not only are you required to take a mandatory DEI bullshit class, you're also going to be fed that rhetoric, those lies, the propaganda throughout your 4 years of undergrad. Or, you know, if you decide to pursue more years, like what I'm doing, you're going to get bombarded with those messages. Now, thankfully, my mind is basically immune to the woke bullshit. But a lot of people are not, and I think those people are stupid. People are gonna be like, "Oh, but Scurvy, that's so mean of you." But it's like, look, if your default response to hearing anything that disagrees with you is a tribal rage scream that goes "Ree!" then I think you are stupid. Doesn't matter what level of education you have, you can't think for yourself. You're unable to challenge the ideas that are being presented to you, and you're unable to question those ideas. Like, that's exactly what Bezmenov said like earlier in the video when you know, we were watching it on Saturday. It's like it's kids are taught this bullshit at a very young age. You know, for him, it was the Soviet propaganda bullshit, but in today's times, it's the woke shit. Let's be real. It's the fucking woke Marxist bullshit.
Educated and selected carefully. And some of them have absolutely, this, for example, is a group of students from Lumumba. They don't look like students at all. They look more like military, and that's exactly what they were. They were dispatched back to their countries to be leaders of the so-called national liberation movements, or to be translated into normal human language, leaders of international terrorist groups. Another area of activity when I was working for the Novosti was to accompany groups of so-called progressive intellectuals, writers, journalists, publishers, teachers, professors of colleges. You can see me here in Kremlin. I'm second on the left, with a group of Pakistani and Indian intellectuals. Most of them pretended they don't understand that we are actually working on behalf of the Soviet government and the KGB. They pretended that they are actually being guests, VIP intellectuals, that they are treated according to their merits and their intellectual abilities. For us, they...
In terms of academia or whatnot, I would not be surprised if this situation was happening between, like, you know, very tenured professors and the American government. Or, you know, it could be in other places of the world too. where they're very tenured professors, but they're also heavily involved in organizations like the World Economic Forum. I mean, then again, Klaus Schwab is also a college professor, kind of like I think it's something he largely does, you could say, in his quote unquote spare time, but he is out there spreading a bunch of fucking lies about economics, even though, ironically, he is an economist. So he says.
They were just a bunch of political prostitutes to be taken advantage for various propaganda operations. Therefore, you can see perfectly well the senior colleague of mine on the left doesn't really have that much respect on his face, and myself with a very skeptical smile, typical KGB sarcastic smile, anticipating another victim of ideological brainwashing. This is how a typical conference in Novosti headquarters in Moscow looked like. Sitting in the middle is Boris Burkov, the then director of Novosti press agency, high-ranking party bureaucrat.
Get him liquored up, Yuri.
I am standing next to a famous Indian poet, Sumitranandan Pant. He was famous because he was an author. He was the author of a famous poem titled Rhapsody to Lenin. That's why he was invited to USSR, and everything was paid by the Soviet government.
Damn.
Pay special attention to number of bottles on the table. This is one of the ways.
Talk about shilling. Like, Rhapsody to Lenin. God damn. Our quote-unquote betters in academia also do not have our best interests at heart. Considering, the amount of avowed fucking communists that are now college professors, I'll let you guys come to that conclusion on your own. What do you think about that?
Is to kill the awareness or curiosity of foreign journalists. One of my functions was to keep foreign guests permanently intoxicated the moment they land at Moscow airport. I had to take them to the VIP lounge and toast to friendship and understanding between the nations of the world. Glass of vodka, then a second glass of vodka. And in no time, my guests would be feeling very happy. They would see everything in kind of pink, nice color. And that's the way I had to keep them permanently for the next 15 or 20 days. At a certain point in time, I had to withdraw alcohol from them so that some of them who are the most recruitable would feel a little bit shaky, guilty, trying to remember what they were talking last night. That's the time to approach them with all kind of nonsense, such as joint communique or statement for Soviet propaganda. That's the time they're the most flexible. And of course, what they didn't understand, they didn't.
So a tactic like that Bezmenov has described is insanely effective. I also would not be surprised if a similar strategy, maybe not getting people liquored up, but that tactic of trying to get people feeling a certain way. I guess the best way I could describe it's like selling something that's ultimately shitty as this really, really good thing. That's what a lot of the wokies have done and continue to do when it comes to pushing DEI nonsense. Is they sell it as this great thing, they sell it, they try to word it as something pretty reasonable. It's like, hey, it's not a problem to have, somebody of a different skin color in your office. That's a pretty middle ground take, and I agree with that. But then they use that premise and twist it and contort it to a Marxist end. Pickle says, being a communist should get you arrested for treason and result in you having all your degrees and doctorates taken away. No one who is genuinely educated can be a commie. Yeah, I agree with the second comment, that's for sure. Though, I'm also starting to agree with the first comment a lot more, especially after the fact that, those kids in Columbia University, not your country, Pickle, but, the school where all the fucking Palestine riots have been going on, now, they're tearing up their own fucking degrees, their diplomas, as a form of a protest. For what? That I do not understand. For brown people across the world who would love to see them dead? And literally, Queers for Palestine is equivalent to chickens for KFC. It makes no goddamn sense when you actually look at it logically. Let's see, what was I getting back to? Right. Commies, they can never truly be educated because their minds have been compromised a while ago. Probably since they were kids. Sheffo says, "Oh, you're tearing up your degree? No degree for you then. Back to school for 4 years." Honestly, at this point, that's a fitting punishment. Because if people want, if colleges want to start to be respected again, it's like, first of all, ditch the DEI nonsense. Just fire that whole fucking department. Next up, fire any professor who is a communist or a socialist. Then after that, replace the staff with people who have a tenured career, who are probably looking for a little bit of an easier job, but want to spread wisdom to people about the field that is effective. But also make sure you vet those people to make sure that they're not commie ideologues. And then start as, if the students are going to start tearing shit up, you have to punish them accordingly. Communism isn't just treason to your country, it's the treason to the entirety of mankind. Yes, I also agree with that. It's a treason against humanity. Let's continue.
Realize, or pretended not to realize, that myself, who was drinking together with them, was not drinking at all. I had ways to get rid of alcohol through various techniques, including special pills which were given to me by my colleagues. But they were taking it seriously. In other words, they would consume quite a large volumes of alcohol and feel quite uneasy next morning.
So, here's an image of that magazine where basically Bezmenov did his thing, just liquored up a bunch of journalists to say good things about Russia. Wouldn't you know?
1967, the KGB attached me to this magazine, Look magazine. A group of 12 people arrived to USSR from United States to cover the 50th anniversary of October Socialist Revolution in my country. From the first page to the last page, it was a package of lies, propaganda cliché, which were presented to American readers as opinions and deductions of American journalists. Nothing could be far from truth. These were not opinions. They were not opinions at all. They were the clichés which the Soviet propaganda wants American public to think that they think. If it does make any sense at all. It sure does, because from the viewpoint of the Soviet propaganda, although there are some subtle criticisms of the Soviet system, the basic
I'm pretty sure that subtle criticism isn't so subtle when you have propaganda. Hold on, let me think. I'm pretty sure the criticism of the Soviet Union was also ran by a bunch a bunch of Soviet officials to make sure that it's not too critical, and that the Americans still get a good picture of who we are. There we go. I hope I didn't botch that.
message is that Russia today is a nice, functioning, efficient system supported by majority of population. That's the biggest lie. And of course, American intellectuals and journalists from Look magazine elaborated on that untruth in various different ways. They intellectualized that lie. They found all kinds of justifications for telling lies to American public.
Excuse me, it was partly your job to make sure that they got these ideas
Yes.
and accepted them as their own ideas.
Right.
It actually reminds me of like some propaganda videos the Nazis sent back to America of certain kind of camps, where it just showed them, oh wow, it's great, but then reality kind of says otherwise.
Actually, even before they arrived to USSR, and they paid astronomical sum of money for that visit, they were submitted, this Novosti Press Agency developed so-called backgrounders, 20-25 pages of information and opinions which were presented to the journalists even before they bought their tickets to Moscow. They had to analyze the situation, and judging on their reaction to that backgrounder, the local Novosti representative or local Soviet diplomat in Washington, D.C. would assess whether they be given visa to USSR or not.
So they were selected ahead of
yes,
time.
they were pre-selected very carefully, and there's not much chance for
I knew it
to arrive to USSR and to stay there for 1 year and to bring this package of lies back home.
I have a feeling those journalists are commies or communist sympathizers. Why else would they go through such an intensive screening?
This, for example, is a centerfold of the Look magazine. They presented this monument erected by Communist Party in Stalingrad.
Oh, actually, I just thought of something. If y'all are familiar with like NPR, I remember Better Bachelor actually talking about this. Like, there was like a tenured journalist at NPR who wrote some criticisms about the organization. Literally next day he got fired. He got fired for criticizing just how crazy left-wing the organization is now. Yep. Goes to show just how deep this goes.
As the symbol, personification of Russian military might. And they said in the article, which is published on the site, that Soviets are very proud of the victory in the Second World War. This is another big myth, a lie. No sensible people would be proud to lose 20 millions of their countrymen in a war which was started by Genoese Hitler and Comrade Stalin and paid by American multinationals. Most of the Soviet citizens look at this type of monuments with disgust and sorrow, because every family lost father, brother, sister, or child in the Second World War. Yet American journalists who were trying to appease, to please their hosts, presented this picture on the centerfold as the symbol and personification of Soviet national, they call it Russian national spirit. And it was greatest misconception and a very tragic misunderstanding. Of course, Look magazine was not distributed in USSR. The main audience was in United States.
Okay, I'm gonna pause here. Think about that for a second. Look magazine was not distributed in the USSR, and I think that was also intentional. I think, that issue of Look magazine was meticulously designed to make Russia look like, a pretty good place. There's no human rights abuse happening here. None of that happens here. That's in the past. We don't live... The country's not like that anymore. But if I were to draw like a current day parallel, I have a feeling it probably would be the trying to think. It probably does have to do something with mainstream media, though. I think the difference is, of course, most of the mainstream media is from the United States, but a lot of the people in the U.S. also eat up the woke narrative and don't question it. So, it's not just kind of a one-way thing. It's a multi-way thing. The modern comparison would be China. Gotcha. Yeah, I also wouldn't be surprised if China was doing similar shit. I mean, then again, I mean, hey, if you could pirate your movies from China, I mean, you're gonna get the better version of the film. It's funny.
But I presume that many Americans, millions of Americans who were reading Look magazine at that time, had absolutely wrong idea about the sentiments of my nation, about what the Soviets are proud of and what they hate. This is a group, you see the same lady with the sword in Stalingrad. This is the group of journalists. Myself is in the center with the same devilish smile. And Mr. Philip Harrington is on the extreme left there with his camera. This is the gentleman which was so deaf or so uninterested in what I had to say to him. This is the same picture, a blow-up of the same picture. Many guests from various countries, in this particular case from Asia and Africa, were taken by me as a Novosti press agency employee for a tour across Siberia, for example. We would show them typical kindergarten, you see, nothing special by American standards, just nice children sitting, eating their breakfast or lunch. What they could not understand, or they pretended not to understand, that this is an exemplary kindergarten. This is not the kindergarten for average person or average family in USSR.
So, continuing on your comparison from China, it's like, oh, perfect example. The Uyghur camps. When China tried to send out just press from its propaganda wing or whatnot, it's like, oh, presented the Uyghur camps as just a place for the Uyghurs to learn about the true Chinese culture, and it's not what you think it is. It's they get to play basketball, and they get to learn how to draw art, and it's great. They want to be here. That's kind of what that reminds me of.
And we maintain that illusion in their minds. You can see myself under the red spot in the middle there, with the same business-like expression. I'm doing my job. That's what I'm assigned to do, and that's what I was paid to do. But deep inside, I still hope that at least some of these useful idiots would understand that what they are looking at has nothing to do with the level of affluence in my nation. This is a better picture which reflects the true spirit of the Soviet childhood.
Oh, look at that. Ain't that fucking sad. But going back to my example that I just brought up of the Uyghur camps, it's like, then you actually see what's going on in there, and it's not pleasant. It's not pretty.
This picture was printed in a Canadian government publication by mistake. In the middle, you can see children playing on a small courtyard, and the caption goes, "This is a typical kindergarten in Siberia." What these idiots didn't understand, that it is not kindergarten at all. It is a prison for children of political prisoners.
Damn. That's how I think of the modern education system here in America. It's a fucking prison. The kids are treated like prisoners, and the wardens are all woke.
But there was not a single mentioning that what they were visiting actually was an area of concentration camps. And the job of people like myself to help them not to notice that they are actually talking to prisoners. Most of the children were dressed, especially on the occasion of the foreigners' visit. Of course, there were no corpses on the ground. There were no machine gun guards. And well, it looks not very pleasant, as you see. It looks dull, but obviously it does not create an impression that
fucking
this
dreadful.
is actually a prison.
Well, did any of the journalists have the curiosity to ask about prisons and that kind of thing? They were in Siberia. This
Yes.
is what you associate.
Yes, some of them asked questions, and naturally we would give them, for the stupid question, we give them stupid answer. No, there are no prisons in Siberia. No, most of the people who you see are free citizens of USSR. They're
Gaslighting. Like Bezmenov, you know, when he's talking about the insane amount of gaslighting that someone like him had to do, I think this is something that's literally happening right now in America. The insane amount of gaslighting that our government does, and you know, academia, the news media, you know, hell, even some, you know, left-leaning quote unquote independent media. I use independent in quotes because chances are they're funded by, you know, the George Soros types. They're not truly independent.
very happy to be here, and they are contributing to the glory of the socialist system. Some of them pretended that they believe what I was telling them, and most of them we made.
Compa says, I knew this guy looked familiar as soon as I saw his face. Yep. He was, like, a big whistleblower when it came to just, like, how bad the USSR propaganda machine is. Both apply. And the thing is, now that propaganda machine is being used by, like, you know, China, hell, even the U.S., but at least in the U.S., like, you know, there are people who are wise enough to see exactly what's happening.
Discuss it later. What
There
are
ain't
the
many, though.
motivations of these people? Why would they stubbornly bring lies to their own population through their own mass media? I have various answers to this. There is not a single explanation. It's a complex of explanations. It's fear, pure biological fear. They understand that they are on the territory of an enemy state, a police state. And just to save their rotten skins and their miserable jobs, their affluence back home, they would prefer to tell a lie than to ask truthful questions and report truthful information. Second, most of these schmucks were afraid to lose their jobs because, obviously, if you tell truth about my country, you will not last long as a correspondent of New York Times or Los Angeles Times. They will fire you. What kind of correspondent are you? You obviously cannot find common language with Russians.
I also wouldn't be surprised if something like this was also happening to, like, correspondents who report news in China.
If they kick you out in 24 hours.
I like how much this guy insults the reporters. Yeah, the reporters are also fucking stupid. I'm in agreement with Bezmenov here, 100%. A lot of journalists are fucking stupid. They don't really do their job. They're just there to peddle propaganda, especially in today's day and age. Like even if it's like some you know, quote unquote independent voice that's being platformed by, like, mainstream media. Yeah, I kind of lose trust in them. I kind of lose trust in that source if that source is just completely agreeing with whatever bullshit is, you know, being said. Now, I know, like, you know, some people on you know, my side of the political aisle, they have been on mainstream media to just kind of explain, you know, maybe have a debate, like a real debate, but then that gets derailed because the host of the program doesn't actually want to debate. I don't know, it's a fucking mess.
So just by trying to be conformist to their own editorial bosses, they tried not to offend the sentiments of the Soviet administrators and people like myself. Deep inside, I hope they would insult my or offend my sentiments. Obviously, they preferred not to. Another reason, I refuse to believe it, but obviously, there is another reason. Obviously, it's a greed. These people earn a lot of money. When they come back to USA, they claim that they are experts on my country.
Greed.
They write books which sells in million copies, titled like Russians, The Truth About Russia. Most of it is lie about Russia. Yet they claim to be Sovietologists. They play back myth about my country, the propaganda cliches. Yet they stubbornly resist the word of truth. If a person like Solzhenitsyn is either defecting or kicked out of USSR, they try all their best to discredit him and to discourage him. I don't have much chance.
Even so, you know, if you guys are like haven't seen or read 1984 before, one of the big kind of things that Orwell like pokes fun at is the something that the Soviets did, unpersoning, where basically they just retconned the guy like out of existence. You know, it's like, oh, this guy never actually was, you know, right next to me in this picture. No, that was never the case. That was like an example that I really remember. It was like, you know, a guy like next to Stalin. He was like in, you know, pretty in deep when it came to, you know, the Soviet government, but then, you know, he defected, and it's like, oh, this guy never existed. He wasn't with Comrade Stalin. It's like, look it up. It's a real thing. And no doubt they have to do, those journalists have to do something similar when it comes to their books. It's like, oh, well, I never actually liked the guy, even though you were singing his high praises not too long ago. After seeing both a 1984 and Animal Farm, I feel like I have a clear picture of the power of propaganda. Yeah, I remember seeing Animal Farm when I was like in high school, and it's like that was kind of a like, I wouldn't say an awakening moment, because like my red pilling happened in like 2020, but it did prevent me from going so far down the leftist rabbit hole. So it's like, yeah, like I was able to see like some of the insane propaganda that leftists were just putting out. Right now, the journals are going after Tesla and vouching for explosive Chinese electric vehicles because of muck communism. I mean, there's good actual reasons not to like Elon Musk, but why would the media be shilling for explosive Chinese electric vehicles? Oh wait, I know why. Elon Musk bad because Twitter takeover.
To appear on national network with a true story about my country. But a useful idiot like Hendrik Smith or Robert Kaiser, they are big heroes. They come back from USSR. They say, oh, we were talking to dissidents in Russia. Big deal. Soviet dissidents are chasing American correspondents in the streets, and they are cowardly escaping from these contacts. For some strange reason, if you want to know more about Spain, you refer to Spanish writers. If you want to learn more about French, you read French writers. Even about Antarctica, I bet you would read Penguins. Only about the Soviet Union, for some strange reason, you read Hendricks and Schmendricks and all kinds of Kissingers, because they claim that they know more about my country. They know nothing, or next to nothing, or they pretend that they know more.
And that's also intentional on behalf of the USSR. It's like they want to try to, you know, get these hacks to believe that, oh, Russia's not, you know, a slave state or whatever tyrannical bullshit was happening at the time. Russia's not like that. And so, once again, people like Bezmenov, they would get the American writers and journalists and ambassadors all liquored up, and then they'll forget about their actual questions. And then the Soviets will send them home with a little pack of lies, and that they could publish and make a lot of money from.
Than they actually do. I would say they are dishonest people who lack integrity and common sense and intellectual honesty. They bring back all kind of stories like that. A kindergarten in Siberia. Omitting the most important fact, it's a prison for children of political prisoners. Another greatest example of monumental idiocy of American politicians. Edward Kennedy was in Moscow, and he thought that he is a popular, charismatic American politician who is easygoing, who can smile, dance at the wedding in Russian Palace of Marriages. What he did not understand, or maybe he pretended not to understand, that actually he was being taken for a ride. This is a staged wedding, especially to impress foreign media, or useful idiots like Ed Kennedy. Most of the guests there, they had security clearance, and they were instructed what to say to foreigners. This is exactly what I was doing. You can see me in the same damn wedding palace in Moscow where Ed Kennedy was dancing here. You see, smiling. He thinks he's very smart. From the viewpoint...
Oh my god. The Israeli is killing the Palestinians. China isn't doing anything to China isn't doing anything to Tibet and the Uyghurs, Chud. Oh my god. Distraction. If there's one good thing the media is good at, it's providing distraction. Non-stop distraction. Oh, something actually pressing is happening to the American population. Some tyrannical bullshit is about to be passed. Oh, look, guys! Look what's happening all over in the other side of the world that ultimately doesn't matter to you. Or look at what this celebrity said. Or look at oh wow, you know, X celebrity is really stupid, guys. It's, you know, stuff like that. Hold on. I'll be right back. And when I get... So I'm probably going to be like 5 minutes. I'm going to get me another drink. So just give me one moment. I'm going to play a different song. What to play? Oh, there we go. Hey K-Plan, how's it going? I'm just gonna be right back. I'll be like 5 minutes. And I am back. Let's get back to the interview, shall we?
Of Russian citizens who observe this idiocy. He's narrow-minded, egocentrical idiot who tries to earn his own popularity through participation in propaganda farces.
That's something else too about our politicians. They're more than happy to participate in this farce if it means that their approval ratings are going to go up, or if there's a chance that especially if they're really in agreement with the propaganda or the ones who are spearheading it, it means that they get to have their way in the system. Makes you think, doesn't it?
It's like this. Here you can see myself. On the right, again, exemplary Soviet bride. On the left, 3 journalists from various countries, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Obviously, they enjoying the situation. They will go back home and write the reports. We were present on a regular Soviet wedding. They were not present on a regular Soviet wedding. They were present, they were part of a farce, of a circus performance. Another thing which I had to sometimes risking my life to explain to foreigners. Time magazine, for example, is very critical of South African racist regime.
Okay.
The whole article was dedicated to the shameful internal passport system where blacks are not allowing to live with whites. For some strange reason, for the last 14 years since my defection, nobody wanted to pay attention to my passport. This is my passport. It also shows my nationality, and it has a police rubber stamp, which is called propiska in Russian language, which assigns me to a certain area of residence. I cannot leave that area. Same way as this.
Honestly, that's pretty interesting. I know the perfect parallel. Are you guys familiar with the idea of the 15-minute cities? That's honestly, if those were to ever come to pass, I think something like a Bezmenov's passport might actually come to pass. Like, you can never truly leave that city. You can never truly move out of it. And so another basic human right just gets trampled on for the sake of progress and saving the environment, when in reality it's just another way to treat, the people like cattle.
This black man cannot leave the area in South Africa. Yet we call South African government racist regime. Not a single Jane Schmonda or Fonda is brave enough, courageous enough to come to media and say, look, this is what happens in USSR. I send a copy of my passport to many American liberals and civil rights.
Containment zones is what those cities are. Exactly. They're not even actual cities. Like you said, containment zones. It's the way, and I know exactly the way that these are going to be marketed to people, and already are being marketed to people. Everything. You'll have everything close to you. You'll have the Walmart over there. You'll have your goy slop vendors over here. Oh shit! Am I describing where I'm living right now? Nah, kidding. I'm just in a college town, so that's pretty common. But basically, imagine if everywhere was like a college town, but much smaller and probably way more grungier and way more tyrannical. That's basically what 15-minute cities are. And every city's going to look the fucking same. You have what's going to be the difference between Walmart 64 and Walmart 65? I think that's what Sheffo said to me one time.
Defenders and all the other useful idiots.
I get, also, one more thing before we continue. I get called crazy for saying stuff like this all the time. Even though it's like, chances are, it's probably gonna happen.
They never bothered to answer me back. This shows what kind of integrity, what kind of honesty these people are.
No integrity.
They're a bunch of hypocrites because they don't want to recognize a good example of racism in my country. This is the first stage of befriending a professor.
And they also don't talk about, the Chinese government like this either. Chances are they're probably getting paid by the Chinese in some way or form. Captain Barbosa, you best start believing in dystopian futures. You're living in one. I feel ya. We're drastically approaching that. If we already aren't living in one, we just don't have the flying cars.
You can see myself on the left with the same James Bond smile. On the right is my KGB supervisor, Comrade Leonid Mitrokhin, and in the middle a professor of political science in Delhi University. The next stage would be to invite him to a gathering of Indo-Soviet Friendship Society. There he is sitting next to his wife before he is being sent to USSR for free trip. Everything is paid by the Soviet government. He was made to believe that he is invited to USSR because he is a talented, sober-thinking intellectual. Absolutely false. He is invited because he is a useful idiot, because he would agree and subscribe to most of the Soviet propaganda cliché. And when he is coming back to his own country, he is going for years and years to teach the beauties of Soviet socialism to newer and newer generations of his students. Thus,
Bezmenov is 100% correct when describing professors like this as useful idiots. That's how I see a lot of my professors, too. They're just useful idiots. They don't actually know what they're pushing, and they're just obeying the whims of someone who actually does not have their best interest in mind either. So, useful idiot is quite the good, label for a lot of these people. Oy vey, check Discord. Okay. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So this is all the way back from January, late January. Let's see. We could actually scroll. Up here. Oh yeah, this was talking about some fucking woke Karen short. We'll start from the beginning. Not everyone wants to live stacked on top of each other. Soy Jack. Walkable cities are dystopian. And I said, they are. The 15-minute cities are a perfect opportunity for them to ruin our lives. And then Pickle says, he thinks European cities are the same as a quote-unquote 15-minute city. European cities just have a lot of shit. A 15-minute city is a cyberpunk-like habitation block. And then I said, Athens, is nothing like Amsterdam. Amsterdam is nothing like Barcelona. He clearly hasn't been to any part of Europe. I haven't either, but even I know that. And Pickle says, cars do represent freedom, Soy Jack. And I reply with, he's not calling me Soy Jack. He's calling woke Karen the Soy Jack because he is the Soy Jack. These people are such morons. They have no idea that carbon is important to our world. And then Pickle responds with, just because hold on. Barcelona is very walkable, but it's because businesses noticed it was a good idea to set up shop near where people live. And then I said, just because the temperatures here in my state can get wild out of nowhere doesn't mean the world is suddenly heating up. It wasn't some government designed dystopia. The problem isn't that everything is 15 minutes away or walkable. It's that the government would not have your best interest in mind. The government would turn it into an overpopulated habitation block because that's what they want. They don't want a city. They want a habitation block. Like what Compass said, containment zone. The government will never have your best interest in mind when designing anything, unless your best interest also makes money. And I said, live in the pod, eat the bugs. These people can never define how that makes for a fulfilling life. They think a fulfilling life is having Starbucks number 349 be 5 minutes away from Walmart 94 in floor 2 of Hab Block 23. And then I said, all for the environment, when in reality their plan is to make the earth uninhabitable. Pickle replies with, I'm not going to play our voice messages. That's a little, that's something else. Densely populated slums like India, China, and Brazil are what's killing the planet. not city and city being in my state being a drive away from each other. Okay, yeah, that's the end of that little combo, because then we start talking about episode planning for the show. Honestly, thank you for bringing that. Thank you for reminding me about that and sending it my way.
Us promoting the Soviet propaganda line. The KGB was even curious about this gentleman. It may look innocent. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, a great spiritual leader, or maybe a great charlatan and crook, depending on from which side you're looking at him. Beatles were trained at his ashram in Hardwar in India how to meditate. Mia Farrow and other useful idiots from Hollywood visited his school, and they...
Yeah, celebrities are also useful idiots. Most of the time, they don't even know what's actually going on. I mean, I know there's, the joke of the blood rituals or whatnot, though I do think, personally, that is true. But I do think that they are so smug that they also don't really know what's going on. They think they do, but they don't. They too are also pawns in a far greater plan.
Turned back to United States absolutely zonked out of their minds with marijuana, hashish, and crazy ideas of meditation.
Oh, wouldn't you know? Marijuana being used as a tool to control people. It's almost, same thing with alcohol. It's almost like, hey, they don't allow the people to enjoy these things, but it's like, oh, they're sure going to be used as a way to get information out of people, especially marijuana. Good Lord. People say alcohol is truth serum. That it is, but holy shit, marijuana is something else.
To meditate, in other words, to isolate oneself from the current social and political issues of your own country. To get into your own bubble, to forget about troubles of the world. Obviously, KGB was very fascinated with such a beautiful school, such a brainwashing center for stupid Americans. I was dispatched by the KGB to check what kind of VIP Americans attend this school.
That's you on the left.
Yes, I'm on the left. I was trying to get enrolled in that school. Unfortunately, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi asked too much. He wanted $500 American for enrollment. But my function was not actually to get enrolled in the school. My function was to discover what kind of people from United States attend this school. And we discovered that, yes, there are some influential members of family, public opinion makers of United States, who come back with the crazy stories about Indian philosophy. Indians themselves look upon them as idiots, useful idiots.
Gee, I wonder why the Indian population would look upon white men talking about Vishnu and Shiva doing things that they never did in Hindu lore and mythology. It's like they look at the American celebrity as like, what the fuck are you talking about? Shiva would never suck Vishnu's cock.
To say nothing about KGB, who looked at them as extremely naive, misguided people. Obviously, a VIP, say a wife of a congressman or a prominent Hollywood personality, after being trained in that school, is much more instrumental in the hands of manipulators of public opinion and KGB than a normal person who understands, who looks through this type of fake religious training.
Why would they be more susceptible to manipulation?
I just mentioned that because, you see, a person who is too much involved in introspective meditation. You see, if you carefully look what Maharishi Mahesh Yogi is teaching to Americans, is that most of the problems, most of the burning issues of today can be solved simply by meditating. Don't rock the boat. Don't get involved. Just sit down, look at your navel, and meditate. And the things, due to some strange logic, due to cosmic vibration, will...
The way that a lot of the hit, like that hippie bullshit tends to sell is like they bring up shit like, you know, toxins or cosmic vibrations, and you know, a lot of people are none the wiser to that shit. Then again, I don't think most of these people have done any form of psychedelic. I've done psychedelics before, and let me tell you, you know, there's no such thing as, you know, the cosmic vibrations. But maybe one of these days I'll tell you about the time I tripped balls on shrooms.
Will settle down by themselves. This is exactly what the KGB and Marxist-Leninist propaganda wants from Americans, to distract their opinion, attention, and mental energy from real issues of the United States into a non-issues, into a non-world, non-existent harmony. Obviously, it's more beneficial for the Soviet aggressors to have a bunch of duped Americans than Americans who are self-conscious, healthy, physically fit, and alert.
And wouldn't you know, the way that our country is, majority of people are fat, lazy, and stupid, and sickly, because obesity is indeed a problem. It is a medical problem. Good Lord. It makes it so much easier for our own government to just enact whatever tyrannical bullshit it wants to. Big reason why the lockdowns even happened was because of how many fat people we have in this fucking country. Fat and old people. And, you know, the two mix quite well, because there's also a lot of fat old people, too.
To the reality. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi obviously is not on the payroll of the KGB. But whether...
Oy vey, turn into weed-addicted cattle, goy. Your first son will be a black femboy, the second a cuck, and your daughter will make OnlyFans content for Shekel's enjoyment, and you will enjoy it. You're not wrong. That is kind of the plan. In addition, it's going to be a bit of an aside, considering, you know, kind of did bring up a little bit of feminism in that comment. The goal of feminism is to destroy the joy of reproduction. That is literally something from 1984. Like that is part of the goal of the party in 1984, is to take away the joy of reproduction. Feminism also shares that goal. And, you know, part of the joy, you know, when, you know, that phrase, the joy of reproduction, is, you know, seeing your children grow up to be, responsible, virtuous people. In all of those paths, none of those are virtuous. None of those are virtuous. Maybe aside from, well, you know, when it comes to the femboy path, as long as you just keep it as a fashion thing, like not literally a way of life, maybe. Jokes aside, it's like, let's see, your wife will leave you for Tyrone and raise your children as a single mom after he abandons her. But yeah, a lot of this stuff with feminism, especially, you know, the way that a young guy has to navigate the dating world these days, it's intentional. It's a demoralization strategy from our own government. Lovely.
Whether he knows it or not, he contributes greatly to demoralization of American society. And he's not the only one. There are hundreds of those gurus who come to your country to capitalize on naivete and stupidity of Americans. It's a fashion.
Yep, I actually know quite a few people who have been completely duped by whatever bullshit ideology, bullshit cosmic ideology, I should say, most notably astrology. Have you noticed just how you know, astrology has just proliferated in American society, or not even just American society, but Western society as a whole? It's nothing but a scam. Astrology is nothing but a fucking scam, and yet so many women have fell for it hook, line, and sinker. Because astrology appeals very much to the feminine. Like, female nature loves to just deny accountability. It's It's like, no, it's not my fault. I'm a Pisces, so sometimes I act like this. So it's not really my fault. It's my star sign.
It's a fashion to meditate. It's a fashion not to be involved.
It's also a fashion to just blame your problems that you've caused on something else.
So obviously, you can see that if KGB were that curious, if they paid my trip to Hardwar, if they assigned me to that strange job, obviously they were very much fascinated. They were convinced that that type of brainwashing is very efficient and instrumental in demoralization of the United States.
Our conversation with Yuri Alexandrovich Bezmenov, who is a defector from the Soviet Union, a former propaganda agent for Novosti and the KGB, will continue after this message.
And the ScurvyRum show will continue after I get back from the Little Clementine's room. And Scurvy is back. Okay, we are going to just kind of skip around here. Okay, there we go. Perfect.
This picture shows the part of the building of USSR embassy, and my supervisors. On the left is Comrade Mehdi, an Indian communist, and on the right, Comrade Mitrokhin, my supervisors in the secret department of research and counter-propaganda. It has nothing to do with either research or counter-propaganda. Most of the activity of that department was to compile huge volume of information on individuals who were instrumental in creating public opinion. Publishers, editors, journalists, actors, educationalists, professors of political science, members of parliament, representatives of business circles. Most of these people were divided roughly in two groups. Those who would toe the Soviet foreign policy, they would be promoted to the positions of power through media and public opinion manipulation. Those who refused the Soviet influence in their own country would be character assassinated or executed physically come revolution. Same way as in the small town of Hue in South Vietnam, several thousands of Vietnamese were executed in one night when the city was captured by Viet Cong for only 2 days. And American CIA could never figure out how could possibly communists know each individual, where he lives, where to get him, and would be arrested in one night, basically in some 4 hours before dawn, put on a van, taken out of the city limits and shot. The answer is very simple. Long before communists occupied the city, there was extensive network of informers, local Vietnamese citizens, who knew absolutely everything about people who are instrumental in public opinion, including barbers and taxi drivers.
I mean, down the line, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happen if we truly entered a cyberpunk dystopia. Where the guy who gives me my chicken from Popeyes could be an informant. If you ever heard me say or watch anything that is counter-revolutionary, but even then, I don't think that a counter-revolutionary thing would really be up. And not be fun time, that's for sure.
Everyone who was sympathetic to the United States was executed. Same thing was done under the guidance of the Soviet embassy in Hanoi, and same thing I was doing in New Delhi. To my horror, I discovered that in the files where people were doomed to execution, there were names of pro-Soviet journalists with whom I was personally friendly.
Pro-Soviet?
Yes. They were idealistically minded leftists who made several visits to USSR, and yet the KGB decided that come revolution or drastic changes in political structure of India, they will have to go.
Why is that?
Because they know too much. Simply.
It always comes down to that. The useful idiots will always be executed because they know too much. And then also, so think about it like this. A lot of like socialists these days, they think that by the time our glorious revolution comes about, we don't have to worry about work. We can just play video games all day, and the state will take care of us. But no, it's never actually the case. But the funny thing is, the socialists also knows a lot about their ideology, their own ideology. But they always refuse to not engage with what it actually leads to, because all socialists are basically idealists. But what I'm trying to get at here is by the time they're told to work on the field or you die, it's like they're going to say, no man, it's too much, I didn't ask for this, when in reality it's like you know too much about your own bullshit. You just refused to acknowledge the conclusion where it always leads. I hope I made sense with that.
Because, you see, the useful idiots, the leftists who are idealistically believing in the beauty of Soviet socialist or communist or whatever system, when they get disillusioned, they become the worst enemies. That's why my KGB instructors...
Honestly, that's also true. I also forgot to mention that part. Like, that's what happened with me, when I was a diehard leftist. I was like, I didn't really know what socialism was when I was, 19 or 18. But by the time the lockdowns came about, I really was disillusioned. I really was. And we're seeing a lot of the disillusioned. There's a phrase, of walking away. And I felt, I felt that way too. It's just, but at the same time, I also fall into the camp of I didn't leave the left left me behind. And once I realized that, I basically was just like, okay, I see that, the right, so to speak, they're actually the ones who are far more accepting of someone like me than any leftist would be. But honestly, we're starting to see a whole bunch of disillusioned people like myself just outright to say, fuck this. I mean, there's a reason why MGTOW is on the rise. I'm not even MGTOW myself, but it's on the rise. Like that, and the passport bro trend, that's also starting to become really popular. And there's a good reason why. The more wealthy among us they're tired of dealing with the bullshit here in the West. They're tired of feeling demoralized for just being a successful guy, And so they're going to greener pastures. Places where the ideological subversion has not happened.
Specifically made a point, never bother with leftists. Forget about these political prostitutes. Aim higher. This was my instruction. Try to get into large circulation, established conservative media. Reach, filthy rich movie makers, intellectual,
Jews,
so-called academic circles.
Jews,
cynical,
Jews.
egocentric people who can look into your...
Oh, wait. I can't get into too much detail about Jews or whatnot. I think, then again, a lot of them tend to like this ideological subversion shit, too. It is what it is. Don't shoot the messenger.
your eyes with angelic expression and tell you a lie. These are the most recruitable people, people who lack moral principles, who are either too greedy or
Jews.
Suffer from self-importance.
Jews.
They feel that they matter a lot.
Jews.
These are the people who KGB wanted.
Hey, Mr. Bezmenov, no need to dance around. No need to dance around that certain faith. No need to do that. I know what you're talking about. Compa says they live. That's a pretty good movie, if you ask me.
Very much to recruit.
But to eliminate the others, to execute the others, don't they serve some purpose? Wouldn't they be the ones we rely on?
They serve purpose only at the stage of destabilization of a nation. For example, your leftists in United States, all these professors and all these beautiful civil rights defenders, they are instrumental in the process of the subversion only to destabilize the nation.
And that's what's happening currently. I think it's mainly at the end of this interview that a lot of the sound bites from Bezmenov, like, that's where they come from. But now that we kind of know the context of who Bezmenov was, I think the fact that, you know, he talks about this, like, what's going on in modern America, like, you know, his predictions of modern America, like, so vividly and so accurately, it's like I think we can understand why he's making the predictions that he's making.
When their job is completed, they are not needed anymore. They know too much.
They go kablooey.
Some of them, when they get disillusioned, when they see that Marxist-Leninists come to power, obviously they get offended. They think that they will come to power. That will never happen, of course. They will be lined up against the wall and shot.
Yep.
But they may turn into the most...
Lined up against the wall and shot. That's what always happens. It's basic, you know, basic pattern recognition skills. Every time a Marxist or a Leninist, you know, his words, comes into power, that's what always happens. The useful idiots are the first ones to go because they know too much.
Most bitter enemies of Marxist-Leninists when they come to power. And that's what happened in Nicaragua. You remember most of these former Marxist-Leninists were either put to prison or one of them split and now he's working against Sandinistas. It happened in Grenada when Maurice Bishop was already a Marxist. He was executed by a new Marxist who was more Marxist than this Marxist.
Yep.
Same happened in Afghanistan when first there was Taraki.
He has a shiny head. People with shiny heads are smart. They have lots of brains. Ooh. I mean, hey, that also explains why Better Bachelor is smart. That is where the brain is in the head. But yeah, you know, Better Bachelor has a shiny head, and I also think he's a pretty smart dude. An interesting book to read about subversion is Libido Dominandi. I don't know that Latin shit. Mind control thought through sexual revolution. Not sure if that's the exact name, but too much hair makes you dump the brain. Overheats like a computer. And that's not how I felt when I had I recently got my hair cut. I felt like my hair was growing so fast because of how high my IQ is. Being facetious. But anyways, going back to what you were saying, Compa. I the sexual revolution has ultimately been a fucking failure of just in general. And we're experiencing its consequences to this day. I joke about this, but I'm also seriously considering writing The Sexual Revolution and Its Consequences by Scurvy. It would probably suck ass in terms of, like, you know, academic journalism, but I mean, that isn't that a critique that people had of Uncle Ted's book? So it's not really, the academics were like, well, it's not really academic, even though Kaczynski was right on a lot of things.
Killed by Amin, then Amin was killed by Babrak Karmal with the help of KGB. Same happened in Bangladesh when Mujibur Rahman, very pro-Soviet leftist, was assassinated by his own Marxist-Leninist military comrades. It's the same pattern everywhere. The moment they serve their purpose, all the useful idiots are either be executed entirely, all the idealistically minded Marxists, or exiled or put in prisons, like in Cuba. Many former Marxists are in Cuba, in prison. So most of the Indians who were cooperating with the Soviets, especially with our Department of Information of the USSR Embassy, were listed for execution. And when I discovered that fact, of course I was sick. I was mentally and physically sick. I thought that I'm going to explode one day.
I'm about to
The
blow.
ambassador's office, I would stand up and say something that we are basically a bunch of murderers. That's what we are. It has nothing to do with friendship.
He's
and
not wrong.
understanding between the nation and blah blah blah. We are murderers. We behave as a bunch of thugs in a country which is hospitable to
Thugs? Nah, just kidding.
us. A country which with ancient traditions. But I did not defect. I tried to get the message across. To my horror, nobody wanted even to listen.
I feel the exact same way. I feel like every time I tried it, like, with the exception of very, very few, every time I try to talk about, you know, what is about to happen in society, and then, like, this is more so like IRL, not here on the internet with my hug box. Nah, just kidding. You guys are awesome. But I get looked like I'm the crazy one. And the funny thing is, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I'm on the spectrum for goodness sake. But at the same time, it's just like, does your brain just like automatically shut off every time, you know, you hear something the right of Mao? Speech check failed. You're right. You're right, compa. But honestly, I think willful ignorance is probably one of the worst parts of human nature. I really do believe that. Especially, you know, because willful ignorance is a common trait among, like, weak people. So, you know, women and weak men. Though not all women, of course, I know that. But the women who tend to not, you know, think that way, they're with a strong guy. So take that for what you will. Let's keep going.
First of all, to believe what I had to say. And I tried all kinds of tricks. I would leak information through letters or lost documents or something like that. And still I got no message. The message was not published even in the conservative mass media of India. The immediate impulse to defect was Bangladesh crisis, which was described by American correspondents as Islamic grassroots revolution, which is absolute baloney. There was nothing to do with Islam, and there was no grassroots revolution. Actually, there are no grassroots revolutions, period. Any revolution is a byproduct of a highly organized group of conscientious and professional organizers. But
that's true. If you guys remember the What If Altist video that we went over about, like, you know, what is it? Like the coming incel crisis? Something like that? he does mention that, you know, revolutions don't just like spring up overnight. Like they are organized. You know, there are counter elites who push for a revolution to happen, and that's how a revolution starts. Now, sometimes those counter revolutionaries are also compromised by, you know, well, in this example, the KGB, the Soviets. Other times, not so much. Like the American Revolution, yeah, it had, you know, the counter elites, but they weren't like pushing back the redcoats for, you know, Marxism. Good God, no.
Has nothing to do with grassroots. In Bangladesh, it was nothing with grassroots. Most of the Awami League party members, Awami League means People's Party, were trained in Moscow in the high party school. Most of the Mukti Fauj leaders, Mukti Fauj in Bengali means People's Army, same as SWAPO and all kind of liberation armies all over the world, the same bunch of useful idiots. They were trained at Lumumba University and various centers of the KGB in Simferopol, in Crimea, and in Tashkent. So when I saw that Indian territory is being used as a jumping board to destroy East Pakistan, I saw myself thousands of so-called students traveling through India to East Pakistan, through the territory of India, and Indian government pretended not to see what's going on. They knew perfectly well, the Indian police knew it, the intelligence department of the Indian government knew it, the KGB of course knew it, and the CIA knew it. That was most infuriating.
Of fucking course. The CIA would allow this shit to happen. So much for, you know, supposedly having our interests at heart. Stan Smith is doing a wonderful job. Anyways, hold on. I'm gonna get me some more booze. I'll be right back. And I am back. Let's see. Scurvy, come back. You could blame it all on me. Stan Smith must have heard Scurvy talking shit. Nah, I was just getting some more booze. Don't worry. Honestly, if the feds were to stop by my apartment, I'd be like, "Oh, hi! Welcome, Mr. CIA agent. Can I get you a drink?" And I just have this shit-eating grin on my face. And the CIA would be like, "Scurvy, why are you talking..." Wait, no, it would be Stan Smith, literally. He'd be like, "Scurvy, why the fuck would you be shit-talking the CIA?" And then I'd reply back, "Agent Smith, I know exactly what goes on. I know exactly what goes on in your office. I've seen your show." American Dad's pretty funny. Big news from the pickle. You're writing the second chapter of Tales from the Cuck. Finally, we've been waiting for that.
Because when I defected and I explained to the CIA debriefers they should watch out because East Pakistan is going to erupt any moment, they said I was reading too many James Bond novels. Anyway, so East Pakistan was doomed. One of my colleagues in the Soviet...
Alexa, activate the Tannerite dog and C4 Roomba. God damn it, Compa. No, feds, I don't have a tannerite dog or C4. I don't even know how to make that shit. Nor do I want to or have the desire to.
Consulate in Calcutta, when he was dead drunk, he ventured into the basement to relieve himself. And he found big boxes which said printed matter to Dhaka University. Dhaka is the capital of East Pakistan. And since he was drunk and furious, he opened one of the boxes and he discovered not printed matter. He discovered Kalashnikov guns and ammunition in there. Anyway, it's a long story.
Huh.
When I saw the preparations for the invasion into East Pakistan, obviously I wanted to defect immediately. The only thing I couldn't at that time make up my mind when and where and how. One of the reasons, of course, you see.
Honestly, that's something interesting to think about. It's like when, where, and how. It's like you know that something is wrong, but if you leave under shitty circumstances, the next place that you're at ain't gonna be all that great for you because you're gonna be dirt poor. So, and typically speaking, in tyrannical regimes, they don't allow the right to emigrate. And so you have to do all these crazy things to, remotely get out of there alive. That's what happens a lot in, North Korea.
See, I was in love with India. I mentioned it before. I spoke the languages. I socialized with people. And I understood that I had to act fast unless I want this beautiful country to be permanently and irreparably damaged by our presence. One of the reasons not to defect was, as you can see, I was living in relative affluence. Who the hell in the normal mind would defect and do what? To be abused by your media, to be called McCarthyist and fascist and paranoid, or to drive a taxi?
My dad was a Hare Krishna in his youth, and he was pretty much stuck working for them for decades, not even making minimum wage while being overworked. Damn, dude, that fucking sucks. Hey, U11 Uprising, how's it going? But honestly, compa, that really fucking sucks.
Taxi in New York City. What for? What the hell for should I defect? To be abused by Americans? To be insulted in exchange for my effort to bring the truthful information about impending danger of subversion? As you can see, I was living in quite a comfortable conditions next to swimming pool, where Indians were not allowed, by the way. I was highly paid expert in propaganda. I had my family. I was respected by my nation. My career was cloudless. The third reason, how to defect with the family. To defect with the baby and the wife would be virtual suicide, because according to law, that hypocritical law which I quoted before, the Indian police will have to hand me over back to the KGB, and that will be the end of my defection and probably my life. Again, I cannot smuggle my wife because she was not quite sure what I was doing. She was not that idealistically involved, and she was definitely not in the total picture of what I was doing for the KGB. She would be shocked if I put her in my van and drive her to the American embassy or elsewhere. That would be a greatest danger. So again,
And earlier on in this interview, the portion we were watching on Saturday, chances are that person in the U.S. Embassy was probably a communist sympathizer.
I had to defect in such a way that my defection would look as simple disappearance. And there were many cases like that when the Soviet agents simply disappeared, either killed in action or, thanks to their curiosity and their close contacts with radicals, some of them were killed by the Marxists, by the way. It happened in many African countries when the Soviet agents were killed by Africans themselves. Not because they hated Marxism-Leninism, but because they were simply trigger-happy bunch of unruly characters. If you give them a machine gun, they will shoot. And some of the Soviets obviously were not careful enough to protect them.
Oh, jeez.
And they got into embarrassing situations when they were shot at the crossfire between factions of so-called liberation movements. Anyway, so I decided,
Sorry, video
as I
kinda
said,
cut
to
out a little
study
bit there.
the counterculture. I decided this probably would be the best way to disappear. I socialized with characters like this on the left. You see, he's a barefoot American hippie.
Alrighty, hold on. I'll be right back. I gotta head to the little Clementine's room again. And I'm back. Little Clementine room break again. You should get your prostate checked, bro. God damn it, AC. Nah, I've just been drinking alcohol pretty quickly. That's about it. And then the previous one, I was just getting me another drink. That rum goes through him like shit, though. Through goose. Nah, I've just been drinking pretty quickly. That's basically it.
It took me quite a long time to study exactly what they were doing and how to mix with them. But eventually I did it. Most of Indian newspapers carried my picture and promise of 2,000 rupees for information about my whereabouts. But they were looking for the wrong person because they obviously tried to stop a young Soviet diplomat in white shirt and tie, and this is how I looked at the time of defection. Nobody could possibly think that a Soviet diplomat would be as crazy as to join a bunch of hippies.
That's you.
Yes, travel India and smoke hash. So I made it literally
Interesting.
almost like a Hollywood-style detective story. From under the nose of the KGB in Bombay airport, I landed the plane and I flew to Greece, where I was debriefed by the CIA. That's basically that's all for my slides.
We can turn off the projector, and that's very interesting. Well, you spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that...
So, it's these last, certainly not, okay, so, yeah, 13 minutes that gets re-uploaded a lot on YouTube. Arguably the most important part of the interview.
I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. When the Soviets use the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all Americans...
And that's what we're going through right now. If you awaken your sense of pattern recognition and look back on what's been going on today, in the past, whether it's a few decades or even thousands of years ago, and you could accurately predict the future. And that future is going to be some revolution or societal collapse.
American mass media has to do is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There is no mystery. There is nothing to do with espionage. I know that espionage intelligence gathering looks more romantic. It sells more deodorants through the advertising, probably. That's why your Hollywood producers are so crazy about James Bond type of thrillers. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means.
Big one, psychological warfare. Fifth generational warfare. That's exactly what's going on right now. And the reason why I say fifth generational warfare, it largely has to do with the fact that, if the TV wasn't bad enough, the internet is so much worse in this regard when it comes to being able to push the regime's propaganda. So much worse. Because it's on such a massive scale. It literally is globally, on a global scale. And so, with the right amount of propaganda, but also make that propaganda look like it's organic, who knows what kind of stupid shit people will believe. Probably a reason why a lot of people believe in the fucking trans nonsense. Good old government propaganda.
Is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years.
We need a lost generation warfare. IDK what it is, but it sounds cool. Your true enemies are not the ones. Your true enemies are the ones you're not allowed to criticize. That's like a bunch of different groups, dude. And once again, I agree, but it all boils down to one little tiny group. The ones that go, oy vey goy. They are truly the ones who push this bullshit. And, hell, even some of their own don't realize it, that they're also pawns. I think what a lot of people don't understand about, Jews and Judaism is that, hell, even their own are used as pawns. And those pawns don't even realize it. Oftentimes, it's the more, conservative-leaning Jews who are at least more understanding of it, especially the ones who, completely disavow the Talmud. It's rare, but it does exist. But, in general, if you're really looking for a scapegoat, let's see, I'll try my best to quote this meme. So, on the authoritarian left, they blame the rich. The libertarian right, they blame the government. I think the authoritarian left, blames America. The authoritarian left blames the rich. The authoritarian right blames the Jews. But it's actually the combination of all 4 of those. So if you're looking for somebody to blame the rich Jews and the American government. If you are American, that's where a lot of our problems come from.
To demoralize a nation. Why that many years?
You can't criticize
Because
them.
this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism.
Yep. My fiance has a bit of Jew in her. Annulment or no? Well, obviously your wife's not the problem. I mean, I have some Yid in my blood. That's not the problem here. You know, my dad's side, my dad was raised Jewish, but he was very poor. Kind of an exception that proves the rule in that regard, but obviously no. I'm not talking about, like, the Jews who are not, like, rich and who, who aren't, like, just degenerates. I figured you out, Orange, or should I say, Shekel McGoystein. Nah, I'm just saying. It's like, the problem here is, what the government is pushing, and it just so happens that the government is full of the rich Jew types. The same thing with the World Economic Forum and Hollywood. Like, literally. It's not anti-Jewish to point that out. If you look at it rationally, it's like, yeah, there are a lot of Jews in Hollywood. The same thing with the World Economic Forum. I mean, Klaus Schwab is Jewish. It's not anti-Jewish to say that. I'm not going to use the term anti-Semite to describe, anti-Jew or whatever, because Semite applies to more than just the Jews. It applies to a whole bunch of different ethnicities. The Greeks, the Syrians, other parts of the Middle East. The Lebanese, even the Palestinians. George Soros sold out people during the Holocaust, yet he uses being a Jew as a defense. Yep, this is what we call Jew-jitsu. Nah, jokes aside, it's like, that is true. George Soros, he really is fucking evil. Same with Klaus Schwab. They're both fucking evil. Just in general, as a guideline, the people in the World Economic Forum are evil. They hate you and want you dead.
American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are...
MX Rug. Anti-Semitic is a term invented by a Jewish person specifically for anti-Jewish sentiment. It just sounds fancy. Exactly. Whoever invented that term, they probably knew that there were more Semitic peoples than just the 12 tribes of Israel.
Are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if...
Exactly. The reason why you can't change a Marxist's mind on shit, it largely has to do with the fact that every time you try to show a Marxist like the genuine truth of things, so in today's time that would be, men are men and women are women, and you can't change that. To them, that's a way that their brain just shuts off right then and there, because they were taught that it shatters like the world view that they're in, that that they don't know how to deal with it. They just don't.
If you prove
And
that
so they
white is white
explode.
and black is black, you still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible. To get rid society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded and common sense people who would be.
Unfortunately, Mr. Bezmenov, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. I mean, allow me to be a little bit black-pilled here for a moment. I don't think that's really happening anytime soon. People are starting to wake up, yes, but I worry that it might be far too late.
Acting in favor and in the interests of the United States society.
And yet these people who've been programmed and, as you say, in place, and
Yes.
who are favorable to an opening with the Soviet concept, these are the very people who would be marked for extermination in this country?
Most of them, yes. Simply because the psychological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means in practice, obviously they will revolt. They will be very unhappy, frustrated people. And the Marxist-Leninist regime does not tolerate these people. Obviously they will join the links of this.
If you think about it, like a lot of leftists these days, they are pretty violent people. I mean, just look at the kind of shit that's going on in the pro-Palestine protests. And before then, you know, the BLM shit. I mean, it's the same people. They're just destroying shit for different causes that are both equally stupid.
Centers, dissidents. Unlike in present United States, there will be no place for dissent in future Marxist-Leninist America. Here you can get popular like Daniel Ellsberg and filthy rich like Jane Fonda for being dissident, for criticizing your Pentagon. In future, these people will be simply squashed like cockroaches. Nobody is going to pay them nothing for their beautiful, noble ideas of equality. This they don't understand, and it will be the greatest shock for them, of course. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last...
He's also not wrong in that either. Demoralization in this country has already happened. So many people believe in this woke nonsense that it's all they know, and all they ever will know, and all they ever want to know. In due time, they're going to try to normalize some really, really bad shit. That's all I could really predict. I'm not sure if it's going to be like, you know, Pete O shit or neck row shit.
25 years. Actually, it's overfulfilled because
I mean, hell, these people are already trying to justify cannibalism.
Demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards, as I mentioned before.
So, this interview was done in '84, a time where, you know, people considered, you know, morals to still be a thing. But oh my goodness, the fact that Bezmenov is already saying this in a time where, you know, there was supposed morals, that's really saying something. It's like he knew exactly where we would be at as a society, but I have a feeling like his message fell on like mostly deaf ears. I think there were some people, you know, further to the right in that regard who really did listen to his message, and it's only now that some more of the moderates are starting to understand just like exactly what he was like talking about.
Exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information, the facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes,
Kick in the bows.
then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So basically, America is stuck with demoralization, and unless, even if you start right now, here, this minute, you start educating new generation of Americans, it will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of ideological perception of reality back to normalcy. And
so, I'm not sure. I don't think Bezmenov predicted just how, proliferated the red pill stuff would become. I mean, then again, I don't think he exactly predicted just how prevalent the internet would be in general. But as much as the woke message is being shoved down our throats, and as hard as it is for like a message like mine to kind of get out there, or just like the red pill message as a whole, people are at least listening to people like Better Bachelor, Undead Chronic, the rest of the warband too. And hell, even me. Though I'm not that big.
And patriotism. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flab, it doesn't matter anymore.
Goy
This
slop.
time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation. What matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems.
And I think something else Bezmenov forgot to mention is relations between the sexes. I think, it's like what If Alt Hiss said in his Incel Revolution video. Reproduction is a huge issue in all of human society and always will be. But when it comes down to it, the relations between the sexes, it was always easier. I'd say it was always easier in the past because, women weren't free to have sex with all the chads in the world. It was also looked down upon to be a single mom, and it was also looked down upon to cheat on your spouse, whether you were a guy cheating on his wife or a chick cheating on her husband. It was always looked down upon. But now, nope, not anymore. Now, articles are being written about how cheating is a good thing and how polyamory is a good thing and blah, 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 blah.
And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis.
I also love how he uses the phrase schmucks, because I also love that phrase too, or that word. I fucking love it. It's so applicable to so many people. And something else about the whole crisis phase. Ever notice that there's so many of these supposed crises, but yet either the crises are if they're happening in the country, they're insignificant, like, a Republican candidate getting into office, or if it's, it could be something global, like, climate change. They try to catastrophize something that happens naturally into something that it's, man-made, and we can only stop it if we eat bugs and live in pods. Or they create a crisis by, just focusing on it, on like a conflict that ultimately doesn't matter to that country. It's like the whole Israel-Palestine conflict or the Russia-Ukraine conflict doesn't really matter to the average American. Like, I believe it's on the bottom of priorities in terms of issues when it comes to, the average American. And yet they try to make it a crisis about that, and turns out, a lot of college students are fucking stupid. They don't realize what's going on, and so they raise up that Palestinian or Israeli flag, not really knowing what those countries actually are. I mean, I find it to be very ironic that leftists aren't supporting Israel when Israel is the country that supports the LGBT community as much as it does.
To promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. He will go to Moscow to kiss the bottoms of new generation of Soviet assassins, never mind.
Lick them boots.
False illusions.
Lick them boots.
The situation is under control. Situation is not under control. Situation is disgustingly out of control. Most of the American politicians, media, and educational system trains another generation of people who think they are living at a peacetime. False. The United States is in a state of war, undeclared total war against the basic principles and the foundations of this system.
So, psyops being committed upon the citizens of the U.S. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm back! Yeah, that was a pretty quick one. Oh, man. Lemonade and rum. Quite the combination. Anyways.
And the initiator of this war is not Comrade Andropov, of course. It's the system. However ridiculous it may sound, the world communist system, or the world communist conspiracy. Whether I scare some people or not, I don't give a hoot. If you are not scared by now, nothing can scare you. But you don't have to be paranoid about it. What actually happens now, that unlike myself, you have literally several years to live on unless the United States wake up. The time bomb is ticking. With every second, the disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to. unless you want to live in Antarctica with penguins. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility.
Okay, so
Honestly, I agree. Something will happen. I could promise you that. Something will happen. I don't know what, or I don't know when, but something will happen. However, what I do know is that it's not going to be pretty. It's probably going to be some form of violence, and more often than not, it probably will be violent. But it's far better than living in like Soviet Russia. It's going to be far, at least when that event happens. And down the line, the country will probably be better off for it. And keep in mind, Scurvy's a fucking pacifist. If there was a war to break out, like, I would not fight on either side. I'd just chill out. That's what I would do. I have no reason to fight in the conflict. I don't get me wrong, I'd have stuff to defend myself, but I would not participate in that conflict one bit. But hopefully, it doesn't even lead to violence. That's just me being a little idealistic, but you know, when it comes down to it, I think we just don't like each other. Like, as Americans, like, you know, the left and the right just does not like each other and would rather see the other side dead at this point. Though I think one side would actually be able to kind of fulfill that part, you know, the right. You know, right-wingers like me, we love our guns. We love our guns. And it's not completely irrational to say that some of us would absolutely love to use, you know, weapons on the other side. Not me, though. Once again, I don't want to fight in that conflict. I don't want to be forced to fight in that either. But there will be some people who would love to fucking do that. But hopefully the change in cultural values happens soon, but also happens, you know, non-violently. That's the best I could wish for. Let's see, I got a message on Discord here. Oh wait, never mind.
what do we do? What is your recommendation to the American people?
Well, the immediate thing that comes to my mind is, of course, there must be a very strong national effort to educate people in the spirit of real patriotism, number one. Number two, to explain them the real danger of socialist, communist, whatever, welfare state.
Okay, unfortunately, you know, you still have a bunch of fucking retards like Vosh or Hassan or Ethan is Online who peddle this message of, real communism hasn't been tried to an audience of a bunch of fucking idiots. Clearly, something about those guys' messaging is somewhat effective. I hate to use that word, but I think the reason why their messaging is effective is because it preys upon people who don't know much about the world, but are also curious about the world in the sense of, like, why do I feel like, why I'm being wronged in this world? And so this is kind of what happened with me to a lesser extent. I wasn't listening to, like, Vosh or Hassan. I knew I didn't really like those guys. But, when it comes to some of the other, like, leftist creators, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forget who, or who exactly, but it's like, oh, this is the problems of the world. It's all those damned Republicans. But when by the time I got properly red pilled in 2020, I was just like, no, whoa, shit, I was wrong. I was wrong about that. And ultimately, when you have a fan base of people who are just ultimately ignorant of what's actually going on, it's like, of course they're going to start believing and saying crazy shit. Of course they're going to start to wreak havoc everywhere. That's just what happens.
Big brother government. If people will fail to grasp the impending danger of that development, nothing ever can help United States. You may kiss goodbye to your freedom, including freedoms to homosexuals, to prison inmate. All this freedom will vanish, evaporate in 5 seconds, including your precious lives. The second thing, the moment at least part of United States population is convinced that the danger is real, they have to force their government. And I'm not...
Live Hassan reaction. What, bro? What? Bro's a Trump supporter. Literally genocide. Iraq. You fucking piece of shit.
Talking about sending letters, signing petitions, and all this beautiful, noble activity. I'm talking about forcing United States government to stop aiding communism. Because there is no other problem more burning and urgent than to stop the Soviet military-industrial complex from destroying whatever is left of the free world.
Is it me, or does that kind of remind me of Hellsing, where the Nazis have just been rebuilding this whole time? That's kind of how I feel about the fucking Soviets. This is their the woke shit is basically their way of trying to rebuild the former glory of the KGB or of Russia, the USSR. Why did I say KGB? That's the propaganda arm. But yeah, if you couldn't tell, I've already had quite a bit to drink tonight. But basically, what I'm trying to get at here is a lot of those old school communists are viewing this woke stuff as kind of their way, their way of, payback or whatnot.
And it is very easy to do. No credits, no technology, no money, no political or diplomatic recognition, and of course no such idiocy as grain deals to USSR. The Soviet people, 270 millions of Soviets, will be eternally thankful to you if you stop aiding a bunch of murderers who sit now in Kremlin and whom President Reagan respectfully calls government. They do not govern anything, least of all such complexity as the Soviet economy. So two very simple, maybe too simplistic answers or solutions, but nevertheless, they are the only solutions. Educate yourself, understand what's going on around you. You are not living at the time of peace. You are in a state of war. And you have precious little time to save yourself. You don't have much time, especially if you are talking about young generation. There's not much time
we really don't
for convulsions to the beautiful disco music. Very soon it will go, just overnight. If we are talking about capitalists or wealthy businessmen, I think they are selling the rope on which they will hang very soon. If they...
That phrase is so fucking accurate about what so many companies are doing these days. I mean, which company doesn't, or at least in their American or European branches, doesn't deck their social media profiles with rainbow flags? I can't really think, with the exception of, the Daily Wire or something, or Epic Times, I can't really think of many, companies who don't do that. who don't deck their social media profiles with rainbows every June. And like what Bezmenov said, they're just hanging themselves with the rope that they're selling.
Don't stop. If they cannot curb their unsettled desire for profit, and if they keep on trading with the monster of the Soviet communism, they are going to hang very soon. And they will pray to be killed, but unfortunately they will be sent to Alaska probably to manage industry of slaves. It's simplistic. I know it sounds unpleasant. I know Americans don't like to listen to things which are unpleasant. But I have defected not to tell you the stories about such idiocy as microfilm, James Bond type espionage. This is garbage. You don't need any espionage anymore. I have come to talk.
Oh, god damn it, Pickle. Had to try to kill the mood of his last minute.
About survival. It's a question of survival of this system. You may ask me, what is it in for me? Survival, obviously, because unlike, as I said, I am now in your boat. If we sing together, we'll sing beautifully together. There is no other place on this planet to defect to.
Damn. God damn. This really was quite eye-opening. Even though I already knew like quite a lot of what was going on, it's just like I didn't quite understand the scale of it. Now I do. Now I don't think we're not done quite yet. There is. So I should at least show you kind of where I had like this idea of talking about Yuri Bezmenov to begin with. Is it this one? There. Okay, yeah. I was right. It's this one. So, I want to show you guys this one segment of this Better Bachelor video. It's like almost like an hour long, but we're not gonna watch the full thing. We're just watching this part of it. And this segment is called Yuri Bezmenov. Yuri Bezmenov was right, but well, allow me to take another little tiny break in the little Clementine's room. Got fucking hell, lemonade and rum, quite the combination. Speaking of rum, I gotta get more of that too. Okay, I am back. Told you I wouldn't be long. I didn't have to put up the transition screen. So, just to refresh you guys, this is basically where I got the idea of covering Yuri Bezmenov's full interview. Just gotta grab me some rum. we go. Crack open that seal. Okay, there we go. Whew, boy.
People that made money on capitalism to support your socialism, so now all you have left is socialism, where nobody has any money and everything fails. That's what they're trying to do. And I'll leave it with this. I'll leave my little rant here with this. This is from January 18th of 2023. I put this video on my channel a while back. 39 years ago, a KGB defector chillingly predicted modern America. And he was talking about demoralization. And he said the first stage would take about 20 years to achieve. And that's happened. Those are the hippies, you know, and the Black Panthers and the Weather Underground. Those people are now the ones in charge of things.
If you really think about it, like, he's not wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those, like, boomer politicians were, like, some form of crazy leftist activist in, like, the 60s or earlier, or hell, even a little bit later.
And now they're in the college campuses, and they've infected. And they've infected the colleges and universities, which infected the students coming through. And then those students graduate, and they go on to do the Bud Light things and the Hollywood things and the Disney things. And
they keep infecting the country with this Marxist bullshit. These are demoralized people who have pretty sick ideas in their head that were taught to them by people who were also taught by people who were sick in the head. It's fucking cyclical at this point. It's fucking cyclical.
get into government. And he says he used the examples of the 1960s hippies coming to positions of power in the 1980s in the government and businesses of America. Bezmenov claimed the generation was already contaminated by Marxist-Leninist values. Of course, this claim that many baby boomers are somehow espousing KGB-tainted ideas is hard to believe, but Bezmenov's larger point addressed why people who have been gradually demoralized are unable to understand that this has happened to them. Referring to such people, he says they're programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern, alluding to Pavlov's dogs. You cannot change their mind even if you expose them to authentic information. Even if you prove that white is white and black is black, you still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of the behavior. Demoralization is a process that is irreversible. Bezmenov actually thought back in 1984 that the process of demoralizing America was already completed. It would take another generation and another couple of decades to get to the people to think differently and return to their patriotic American values, claimed the agent. Do you understand that these women...
So, I should give you guys some context for the end of Joker's rant here. This is all about the Israel-Palestine protests and the fact that it's mostly women who are leading these protests for, the pro-Palestine side. And then you have, weak men for the Israel side, but the strong men are the ones leading the pro-America stuff. Because of course they are. They know that, Israel isn't an ally at the end of the day. They also don't give a shit about Palestine either. Nobody should be giving a shit about either of those countries. And ultimately, the strong men realize that the Palestine protests are, they're just BLM 2.0 at this point.
that are protesting for Palestine and Hamas.
Hummus.
And saying,
hummus, Joker.
we
It's
support
hummus.
them. These women that are coming from rich families that are getting on their knees to bow down and face the east as they're led by somebody else for this stuff, they're not thinking anymore. The triggers have been implemented in their brains. Same thing with feminists.
Since childhood. These triggers have been implemented in their brains since childhood. Probably since they were like 2 or 3 at this point. Feminist bullshit has infiltrated kindergarten. You know, people would have been outraged about that like a few decades ago. Now they're not. Not even the right wing is outraged about that. It's like, you know, there's a good reason why I want to homeschool my kids.
It's on TV. Same thing with the feminists running companies. Same thing with these feminists in politics. All the poison's been. It's already in there. It's already in, and now it's just taking all the trigger words and the buzzwords and flipping the switches, and just like robots, just like chickens marching to KFC to get turned into crispy chicken legs, they're going right down this, and they will not learn until
Chickens
the
were
boot is on
KFC.
their own neck. Because Yuri Bezmenov knows this, and he says it's not even a case.
And from what we learned about him and like the stuff that he had to do for the KGB, we know exactly what that is, and it's not pretty. It really isn't pretty.
KGB thing. This is just how, and this is not him guessing. This is how the Soviets operated. This is how they did what they.
And Bezmenov was part of that process. And you know, the guy acknowledged that. He took accountability for it in that interview. He knew what he was doing. That's why he wanted to spread the message.
They did to people to get them to a point where they could implement socialism. He says, as I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who is demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him a camp, a concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he receives a kick in his bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before. That's the tragedy of the situation of demoralization. So when I talk about demoralization, it's not us that's been demoralized. We're still seeking the truth. We're still looking at ideas.
That's honestly the case. Demoralization is, you know, the red pillars like me. If you want to put me in a group or anything, I'm at least still interested in learning about the truth of things. Like, I hunger for it. And it's an insatiable hunger. It should be that way for everyone. We should all be interested in knowing about the true way of the world. However, the demoralized person is the type to say, oh, everything is fine. I don't, like, it doesn't, you know, the truth is, you know, subjective. It's not objective, when in reality, the truth is entirely objective. That's why I hate the phrase, my truth. I even had to call that out from, you know, one of my peer mentors, you know, in the SPED program that I'm in. It's like, no, it's not my truth. There's only the truth. So, you might want to, you know, should be your opinion. And I think she actually kind of understood the message, considering, you know, she is talking to Lay Orange.
We're still discussing the issue. We can still have our minds changed by things. They cannot anymore. They're now part of the machine. And eventually, at some point, our government and many of the agents in our government, many of the people in these universities, they're fine with this. Have you not noticed how bad school scores are? You look at the youth of today,
That's something else, too. What are the kids being taught? Clearly, when you see videos from like teachers saying, "Oh, these kids can only read at a 4th grade level, hell, even below that, and aren't even capable of doing their fucking times tables," you know there's a fucking problem.
Like 29% are reading and math proficient in some areas. You go to Baltimore, Washington, D.C.,
Good
Chicago,
Lord.
and the reading proficiency is 0. They can't read, they can't.
Instead of teaching these kids how to read and how to do basic mathematics, these kids are learning a bunch of Marxist propaganda. All the fucking critical race theory and the queer theory that's being pushed in the schools. That's what they're learning. They're not learning things that will actually make them good, good productive members of society that aren't just going to be like, pure worker drones, aka goyim. But literally, that's what society wants. It just wants a bunch of slaves. Now, I thought slavery was illegal in the U.S. per the 16th Amendment.
Can't write. Government doesn't care.
I guess they found a
As long as you
workaround.
pay your taxes and you shut up and you do what we say, you're fine. But if you want to think and you want to talk and you want to protest, now you understand. If you look at a lot of the protests happening on these universities right now, go watch somebody trying to talk to them. Go watch somebody saying, "Hey, do you know this happened? Did you hear about this?" And what do they get? What do they get? They get air horns in their face.
That's exactly what happened to, you might not like Jordan Peterson, but, he tried to talk to these people about, just some stuff going on at the time, and he got an air horn blown to his face. I would consider that to be violent because, that could have actually destroyed his hearing. Thankfully, it didn't. But, yeah, I would consider that to be violent. Pickle says, "This is why I don't take people that argue with me on Twitter." Hold on. "This is why I don't take the people that argue with me on Twitter. There's a non-zero percent chance that the person doesn't know 7 times 8. 56.
They get told to shut up. They get told there's no listening anymore. He continues on. Once demoralization is completed, the second state... I'm sorry, I missed a paragraph. It's hard not to see in the state of many modern Americans, we have become a society of polarized tribes, with some people flat out rejecting facts in favor of narratives and opinions. Once demoralization is complete, the second stage of ideological brainwashing is destabilization. During this 2 to 5 year period, assessed Bezmenov, what matters is the targeting of essential structures and elements of a nation. Economy. Our economy is awful. Foreign relations. Our foreign relations are awful. Defense systems. The feminization of people in the military. Bringing in the LDHD TV in the military. Not keeping up on our ships. Sending all our armaments and our ways to defend ourselves overseas to other countries.
Oh boy, when it comes to our military, good Lord, you have a bunch. I'm gonna repeat myself from what I said on Saturday. There's a bunch of men who think that they're women in high-ranking positions in military. Do people not see a problem with that? Even when I was a leftist at the time, I knew that it's like maybe trans people shouldn't be serving in military if they're having thoughts of suicide. But nope. That's considered transphobic.
He says, basically the subverter, in Russia in this case, would look to destabilize every one of those areas in the United States, considerably weakening it. Well, who's weakening it right now? Many people think Israel. Ukraine and Russia, once again, surprise there. But also Soros, also big democratic money that is actually, ironically, not only supporting Biden, but also giving this money to these people. There are agitators being paid.
Joker is also right about agitators. A lot of these billionaire, quote-unquote, philanthropists also have big skin in this game.
Thousands and thousands of dollars to go to each campus and get the students riled up. There's been many of them that have been arrested in these mass roundups that don't even go to the colleges. Who are these people? Professional agitators. They're people that want to see.
So, it was like back in 2020, like my third year of undergrad, I transferred, to a different school, and I actually went to an anti-lockdown protest. And there were people who, there were actual agitators. Thankfully, when I was interviewed by one, I decided to actually, play by their stupid fucking rules. I was like, hey, I said the bullshit, though. Even then, I was like, I still wasn't 100% sure, but I was like, hey, just as long, this place is actually going pretty peacefully, And funnily enough, there were like BLM agitators, and I remember seeing a heated discussion between like a guy that I met. I even still have his fucking business card, so that's nice. But holy shit. Holy fucking shit. That was an experience right there.
Our country get flipped on its head, and then it leaks over to the UK, and it leaks over to Ireland, and it leaks over to other countries. It starts here, then it goes over there. You guys had BLM protests. Your cops don't even carry weapons. Like, you don't have that problem over there. But boy, did it happen all in Europe. Why?
Yep.
Because it's not about the protest. It's about the disruption. It doesn't matter what the protest is, as long as they can flip the switches and all the little NPCs and get them to do what they want, because they're demoralized.
When it comes to these demoralized people, they're so willing to do whatever the establishment tells them to do. When I saw these protests happening on campus not too long ago, don't get me wrong, I was intrigued to see what was going on. Like, I do like to be the observant type, but at the same time, it's like better that I stay, in my apartment than be out there for any longer than I have to be. And even then, those protesters are in my way of getting me some lunch. I think I even told the pickle about this. It's like, I don't think I'm going to be going outside for the rest of the day, considering how big that Palestine protest is. And also considering how big the Israel protest is, too.
And they're stupid. They say the third stage would be a crisis. Something like, say, the planned demic, the jibbity jab, the shutting down businesses, the taking kids out of schools.
Yes.
They say the third stage will be a crisis. It would only take up to 6 weeks to send a country into crisis, says Bezmenov. The crisis would bring a violent change of power. For example, mail-in ballots, changing how our elections happen.
Big time. You couldn't even mention that in the 2020 election season. You can now. You'll still get suppressed. I mean, Better Bachelor, almost 500K subscribers, 470K subscribers, close to 500,000, 113K views on this video. A pretty important video. More people should have saw this. Considering the like ratio that we see right here, 10K likes, that's pretty big. But you couldn't question that back then. Couldn't question the validity of the 2020 election. You still can't even do that now. No doubt by the time the 2024 election comes around, it's going to be more of the same thing.
Violent change, power, structure, and economy. It'll be finalized by the last stage, normalization. That's when your country's basically taken over, living under a new ideology and reality. Now, we're not to that stage yet, But why are they normalizing letting young men going in and showering in female students' locker rooms? Why are they normalizing kids?
So I kind of disagree with you there, Joker. I feel like a lot of this stuff is already being normalized, but I think we're seeing a push back to that normalization. I think that's what we're seeing here. But let's continue.
Being allowed to have.
My wife's penis is massive, and she will nail you right in the fart box. Who are you, Wario? And is your wife Captain Falcon? Or Joe the Riding Biden?
This stuff given to them,
God, that
and where they can become
fanfiction's
boys
cursed.
and girls can become boys, and normalizing young people being taught this stuff in school. I got to look on my time because I'm going to have to remove that word from YouTube. They're being taught philia and pedophilic things.
Yep.
Why are these women raping young boys in class?
This one. This phenomena, it's like, have you guys noticed that this phenomena has been happening a whole lot more? And it's just is it the fact that it's being reported on more? Or is it that it's actually happening more and the reporting is a byproduct of that? I'm starting to think it's the latter. I really believe that it's probably the latter. This is what happens. Sexual freedom. The sexual revolution. All the feminist bullshit.
Classes. Many of them, hundreds of them a year, thousands soon. Why is it okay that young women are making out and having sex with 11-year-old boys? And these are 25-year-old women.
I remember listening to this on betterbachelor.locals.com. Like, holy shit. Like, uncensored and everything. This video is a little bit longer on Locals than it is on YouTube. And, oh my god. Oh my god. I don't find it funny either. Like, I'm not like the South Park police who are just like, nice. Like, I don't find that funny whatsoever. And honestly, like, more guys are also starting to find it to be, like, not funny. The South Park creators were ahead of the curve, once again.
Women that are, a month or two before their wedding. What the is going on? They're trying to, the destabilization and the chaos, they're trying to normalize the chaos. And by the time you get, your warning bells ringing and you're like, holy shit, we've got to do something about it, it's too late. It's either already implemented or they're moving on to the next thing and the next thing and the next, and you can't keep.
It's not even just the singular next thing. It's multiple next things. Like, if it was just one next thing, the propaganda machine wouldn't be as effective as it is for so many people. But because they're able to just focus on so many next things, and turns out all those next things are pretty fucking major events, at least in the eyes of most people, of course shit's gonna happen. Of course people are gonna be distracted. Like, not aware of the fact that, a lot of school teachers are fucking pedophiles.
It's just overwhelming everybody. And so you say, we've got to stop boys participating in girls' sports, and we've got to stop the hormone.
The issue is not any one issue. The issue is the revolution. And in terms of that revolution, are you talking about like the supposed communist revolution, or the most likely predicted like young men's revolution? I have a feeling it's probably the latter, because a lot of young guys like me, we're also getting tired of this shit. I get pretty pissed off whenever I see headlines like, adult woman is molesting a teenage boy. I get really pissed off about that. Why? In case leftists start accusing me of shit that I'm not. It's because I don't like it when kids get abused. It's that fucking simple. I would prefer a society of health, of both physically and mentally healthy individuals. And do you want to know what makes for good mental health? You weren't molested by some fucking horny teacher who thinks that she's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Hormone replacement therapy, and we've got to stop removing body parts from kids, and we've got to talk about our finances and the economy, and we've got to talk about debt, and we've got to talk about inflation, we've got to talk about Israel and Gaza, and we've got to talk about Ukraine and Russia.
Oy vey. I'm about to come. Yes, I am. Not kidding.
They're doing that on purpose. They're overwhelming you to the point where you're just like, I can't pay attention.
That's also the goal, too, is to overwhelm. It's to overwhelm to the point of demoralization. Think about it. Why do you think the news media is so obsessed about trying to get us informed about every little thing, from Israel and Palestine to this up-and-coming bird flu that, who knows, they're going to try to lock us down again with that, to like so much other bullshit that ultimately just doesn't fucking matter. There's a reason why they do this.
They want so much noise you can't hear it all. And your job is to listen to it and to keep reading and keep discovering and keep your head in the game so they can't overpower you and they can't sneak things under the rug behind your back. And if we can stop it at this stage, before the normalization, before these things, and we can start pushing back again.
The one thing that I've learned about the crisis stage from Bezmenov's interview, good luck trying to stop it. Just good luck. Good fucking luck. Try all you can. Most people live in fear.
Against this stuff, we're going to be okay. At least for now. We can push it back. But if we don't, and they want to normalize boys becoming girls and girls becoming boys, and boys and girls sports, and boys and girls showers, and they want to normalize pedophilia, and adults f***ing around with kids and all that
gross.
That's where they go.
Huh?
Adults f***ing around with kids and all that
Hold on. Give me 1 second. Man, oh man. Honestly, I think this little graphic right here, rant too graphic for YouTube. I've listened to that rant too on Locals, betterbachelor.locals.com. Hell, I might even start actually subscribing there so I don't have to miss out on an upload. Enough of shilling for Joker's Locals. My God. My fucking God.
That's where they go. And it's going to have to happen sooner or later. So we're trying to stop this before it gets worse. Because if we can't, it's going to get ugly. And if there's either going to be this big battle at some point where people say, I've had enough, I'm pushing back, or if the destabilization and the normalization happens and we become a country of like weak men, where the strong men are sent off to conflict and they're wiped out, and what's left is the weak and the elderly and the effeminate men, and they go along with what our government and these feminists and the DEI and all this crap, and they go along with it, the country as a whole becomes very weak and very fragile.
And what that means is it's easier for, actual authoritarian governments to take us over. And our government will be more than happy to be the next Goyim.
We must continue to stay awake. We must continue to push back. When applicable, you must protest. When applicable, you must spend your money where it matters. You need to know who owns these companies. You need to know whose CEOs are donating money to these ideologies, and make sure you can do everything you can to make sure they're broke. And if you say, well, that's kind of hard, or I don't want to do that.
No, it's so hard, and I don't want to do that. Well, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what the fuck to tell you.
Go back and read about the founding fathers of most countries, especially ours in the United States, where you see what these young 20, 25-year-old men did to keep their freedom. We went to battle over 2% tax. We went to battle with Europe or the UK, the United Kingdom, with Britain, Great Britain actually, or Britain at the time. We went to war over 2% tax. With what Biden and some of the taxes Biden's looking at implementing.
Man, speaking of taxes, it's a bit of an aside, but I think it's an important aside in this show's history. I'm surprised we didn't have another revolution when income tax was implemented. People just willfully accepted it, willy-nilly, and now I have to pay for the money that I make to government programs that I don't agree with or don't want to happen.
It would be a 60% tax rate on people in California and New York. The most successful, the richest, would be paying 60% tax. And the tax isn't going towards medicine. It's not going towards hospitals. It's going towards the interest we owe on our inflation. It's going to military over in Ukraine and in Israel. And it's going to give $10 billion to Iran for gender studies. Like, look into this.
That's honestly true. When it comes to Iran, what's happening in Iran is fucking crazy. It really is. And I know I've heard of the news that the fucking Islamist president finally fucking died in a plane crash. But that's not really going to change anything. The Islamic bullshit is going to continue for a long time. Even after the death of the president and probably one of his advisors on a helicopter crash. Or was it a plane crash? I forget. Whatever. He died recently. But doesn't change the fact that in Iran, they're still going to be funding gender studies shit. Totally, accurate of the Muslim faith. Am I right, boys? Nah, kidding. But in case you're wondering why I'm getting pissed off about that, Scurvy's part Iranian. I do, my family does have a little bit of skin in that game, unfortunately. But, kinda. Barely. But I figured I should at least mention it. Things are not going to change. They just aren't. And part of that things aren't going to change speech is that they're still funding this gender studies bullshit and the trans bullshit. Iran, like, people actually, like, Troons actually view Iran as a Troon paradise, because you want to know what happens if you come out as gay in Iran? You have two options. You either get your cock lobbed off, or you die. You don't have a choice. Though there might be the third option in saying that, oh, I'm straight, but you're probably lying. But that's besides the point. The elite in that country, they probably practice homosexuality to an extent. And look at the shit that the fucking Dubai oil barons do, or the fucking Saudi princes. I mean, Dubai is in Saudi Arabia, but yeah, you get the point.
Just keep awake, keep fighting, be prepared. You never know when it'll get worse. Guys, if you're on YouTube, you lost part of that conversation.
Yeah, I know, Joker. I know. I've listened to the conversation on your locals page. But man, oh man. That was actually quite the good special episode. It really is. It really was. But ultimately, hold on. We're not done. Not quite done yet. I still have one more thing to say. When it comes to the legacy of Yuri Bezmenov, I think his legacy is a pretty good one. At least when it comes to the messages that he told us about demoralization, about exactly how this Marxist bullshit works. That's just me. But what are your guys' thoughts on the legacy of Yuri Bezmenov? I think he left a rather positive legacy at the end of the day. He realized that something was wrong, and he tried his best to change and educate people about it. That's all I can really hope for. But when it comes down to it, I'm not sure if people are still listening to his message. I really hope they do. With that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the show tonight. I'm going to see if I could try to be back on Friday. I'm not going to be around for Saturday, but instead of Saturday, I'm going to push back the show to Friday. But if I don't... So it seems like right now I am going to have... I'm going to see if I could try to get the Pickle and I to have, like, a conversation about, like, just, like, many different things, whether it's, like, video games, TV shows, all that stuff. That might be a special episode 9. But if something pops up, for a proper episode 49... Hold on, let me see. 1 second, I got to see. Wasn't that episode 49? Oh, hold on. Oy vey. Here, let me just see. Let me see. Chronic's live. Same with Saturn. Let's see. View my channel. Oh, wait, we're almost at episode 50. Shit. Holy shit. And that means I gotta get another addition to the show. It's gonna be a pretty important one, if you ask me. So, I'm probably gonna make this announcement on my community page. I just gotta look into the proper equipment. Let's see. So, Mix Rug says he's 50% truth, 50% grifter, I figure. Who are you referring to? My bitch is going to nail you in the... God damn it, Pickle. Anyways, I will catch you guys later. Episode 50 is going to be something else. I want this to be a major change to the show. So I have a feeling for Friday it's going to be like a special episode with just me and the Pickle. Hey, Pickle, I'm going to rip on Stellar Blade because I finished Devil May Cry 5. Vitch. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later.